Good evening, good evening. Hello, everybody out there in Facebook land. This is overcoming fear when you've grown up with nothing to fall back on. This is Terrance Wilburn, IMT Wilburn on all platforms. And social media, follow me there. Tonight, y'all, I just want to be real with you. This is for everybody who has dealt with fear before. This subject is something that is close to my heart today, simply because I was thinking about the progression of my life, how things have taken a turn in certain places, and what can I do to take control of the wheel? Because, see, y'all, nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. Jesus said, Physician, heal thyself. The Spirit of God wants you to know that you have a place here. Stop waiting for heaven. This place can be heaven or hell if you want it to be. It's whatever you want. The consciousness of your mind makes it so. The thoughts of your mind make it so. So get for real with yourself. A lot of people are talking about living their best life. And you know what? I'm going to have to say it again. I don't know nobody who really living their best life. I'm going to tell you why, y'all. You can take all the vacations you want to. You still got to come back home and deal with reality. See, we are not in a place in this day and time where we have time for games no more. If you are an adult person, you dealing with some kind of fear. Fear is real. It's the false evidence appearing real, but it still is real. When you see a lion, that's real fear. You ain't fighting no lion. You ain't fighting no, they say 100 men versus gorilla. You ain't fighting no gorilla. That's fear. You know something will take you out of here. Fear can pause you, it can break you. And a lot of people, in fact, most people deal with fear. They just don't know how to. And so I wanted to share with you tonight is that I got a few notes here, and I'm going to just read through my notes, and I'm going to just share some real things with y'all for a few minutes. And for those who I don't have a copy of the book, I'm going to hit the link, get a copy of the book, God's Secret Storehouse, The Blueprint of Desire. That is a revelation. It took me about 10 years to release that book. Somewhere around 7 years to write it, 10 years in total to release it. I started that book when I was about the age of 25, 26. And I didn't release the book till I was around the age of 37, 38. So it was a revelation that I had composing of many things that I learned over my life in a period of time about God, about spirituality, about prayer, about real consciousness, thought, and what makes or breaks someone's life, meaning that you can get your breakthrough or you can go so far and hit the glass ceiling, as they would say, and not ever get your breakthrough. And I was going to keep it for a journal for my life just to read over. And I said, I cannot hold back on this great thing that I discovered. And so I released that book several years ago, I think maybe 2020, the height of COVID. And the book has been a blessing to many. And I'm re-releasing it now, and I'm sharing these talks with you because this is what it's about. I'm an author. I've written over 15 books. What should I say? Published 15 books and an award-winning screenplay. That means a movie. So I'm a writer, and I'm very cathartic when it comes to it. But tonight we're talking about fear because that's something that I have dealt with even in present times. Can I be real with y'all? Fear does not leave you. You cannot overcome fear. If you have emotion, you can break through. You can push through. As Tony Robbins said, I learned this back when I was a young man, early 20s. Tony Robbins is a great motivational speaker, psychology, life coach. Talked about fear and about how to use it. And so you must be energized by that energy. When you feel that thing talking to you, that it makes your heart palpitate, you have to embody that energy to do what you need to do in life. That is how you get your breakthrough. Not to sit back and be timid or be shy, because everyone deals with fear, but you must know how to break through it. So you must embody that energy in order to become successful, to do the things that you want to do, to be willing to um, not to sacrifice, but to overcome, I just want to say, and break through the things that you want to do in life. So fear is one of those things that would stop you out. If anybody knows anything about investments, they have a stop loss. And fear is one of those things that will stop you out. It will blow right through your stop loss. It'll stop you from reaching your profit. And so tonight I just wanted to share with y'all, I'm being real with you, right? I grew up fatherless, all right? Why did I grow up fatherless? I had a great father by the name of Willie Charles Braxton. Mr. Braxton's going on his journey. I speak to him in dreams, but he passed during the height of COVID, and he lived a great life, a long life. But I grew up without him because Daddy went to prison when I was somewhere between the age of 7 and 9 years old. Daddy went to prison for trying to, no, not trying to. He set the house on fire, so it was arson. And I was inside, y'all. My mama was inside. My brother, my half brother, was going on his journey as well. My grandmother, the whole family was in the house when Daddy set the house on fire that Martin Luther King weekend. It was snowing outside in Atlanta. I think it was 1992. He had a blizzard that year. Daddy set the house on fire. When he got some kerosene, gasoline, came back and set the house on fire with everybody in it. And that day, y'all, I discovered what fear was. Because I had a loving, kind father towards me, although he was sometimes abusive towards my mother. And he was an alcoholic. But he worked. He was a college educated man as well as a military man. And so Daddy had some issues. Sure, dealing with a woman who was previously married and he was not married to her. My father said also that he had had a wife and another child in the city of great city of Cincinnati. Many do not know that, but he shared that with me many times before. And so we never got a chance to get to know those people quite well, because one evening during altercation between my father and my brother, I learned fear because Daddy came home and burned the damn house down with his son inside. And so I'm sharing with you, if you never had to figure out life alone, or if you had to figure out life alone, should I say, this is for you tonight. If you had to figure out all your problems by yourself, you didn't have a hero, a rescuer. We had a neighbor by the name of Bernard. He was a great working man, a wealthy individual, single man, I believe he was. He had a son. But he lived next door, and that's the first time I ever met a hero. He came in, my grandmother was in a wheelchair. She could not walk. She had just had her foot amputated. And Bernard came busting through the door and picked my grandma up out of that wheelchair and took her out into the cold night of the snow in Atlanta, Georgia. That was the first time I ever met a hero. And Bernard also is going on his way, and I just wanted to acknowledge him and his rescue. But that was the first night, y'all, I got introduced to fear. And fear became real in my life. Up until that time, I had never feared anything before because I had a father. I had strong, tall brothers. I had a family. And that night, everything came crashing down in my 7-year-old life as I learned to deal with something that I would have to deal with the rest of my life, even today, right now. And it's called fear. The false evidence of things appearing real. And so I just want to take a moment to share where fear tried to take me out. It was by being introduced to me. See, many people growing up, I'll put it like this. I'll bring it back just a little bit. Growing up in the city of Atlanta, historically, you can look at the things that were happening in the nation in the 1980s. Crack cocaine had been introduced to the neighborhoods in the urban cities. And regardless of what you want to think about it, and we're not going to get into all those facts tonight, Atlanta was one of those places, like Miami, like DC, like LA, like New York City, like Chicago, like Baltimore. All these urban places had been destroyed. And so I feared nothing though, because my father was with me. Again, Daddy was very intelligent. He would read every night the paper. He would talk about his experiences. I would see him work with his hands because he was a certified electrician, as well as, like I said, he was a college educated man. He spoke very well, but when Daddy hit the bottle, he seemed to shrink a little bit. And he would talk to me and he cried and he said, "Baby, I love you. You're my baby." He said, "Don't never backstab it. Don't change." And he would go into these rants. And I was a kind child. I have a photo of myself. I was going to bring it. I forgot to bring it. Kind, very kind child. And almost timid. But I was secure in my height and my stature because I knew who my father was, as well as I was very close to his heart. And he was close to mine. But when Daddy hit the bottle, he would drink and he would turn into like this Jekyll and Hyde. And one day I saw his eyes as red as a dinosaur, and I became a little bit stand backish. And Daddy used to talk like, "If you get too out of your britches, I get my gun and I kill you." He would begin to speak like that. And I think, what is wrong with my father? I still had no fear because he was my father. And although he would discipline me and take it out on my mother as well, I still had no heavy fear of the world. I thought that's how everything functioned. And again, Daddy would be sweet tongued, and then he would turn into Mr. Hyde. But in the daytime, he was Dr. Jekyll. He would speak very well. And so going through these things, these ups and downs and during the 80s and all these things changing around you, the environment, your family, and hearing different things and rumors and seeing all types of action happening in the city of Atlanta, which you can Google historically. All the rappers still talk about it. In fact, Atlanta is the mecca now for rap music or trap music. But all these things are the experiences of people who have been, who have lived through those things. And so, anyhow, coming back to the story, that night, um, I was introduced to fear. And again, my father would talk a certain way and he would say certain things. And I would hear him say certain things when he'd get drunk or get into an altercation on the corner. One time he had his throat cut from ear to ear. And I cried like a baby. And I remember taking him away and I see the man who had cut my father's throat. And he said, "I'm going to get you too, little boy." And I still had no fear of him because I knew who my father was and I knew he would survive. But that night, one night, on that cold Martin Luther King weekend in Atlanta, Georgia, I think like I said, like it was 1992 or 91 or something like that. Great blizzard. You can Google it. Daddy burned the house down with no consideration of his son being inside. And that night, that day, fear entered into my body and it never left, y'all. And so let me tell you something. Growing up, I want to share, I'm reading from my notes here. At that moment, I became fatherless because my daddy had made a decision to turn against what he knew to be true and the love he had in his heart for me as well as for my mother and possibly for my family and for himself. He turned into Mr. Hyde, and that one decision cost him many years of his life away from his son. And for me, growing up in an atmosphere where things were becoming chaotic, to say the least, in the city of Atlanta, Everything turned upside down and nobody with answers, nowhere to go and turn to. It is the capital, one of the capitals of being black. I only met one other place that was more blacker than Atlanta, and that was DC. I love DC, y'all. Shout out to my DC family. But many places like that, I'm sure whoever you are, you have experienced these things. If you haven't, stay tuned and continue to listen. But things turned chaotic, and having my father away for nearly a decade, I became a young man and had to deal with fear in many, 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 many forms. Again, fear is the false evidence appearing real, according to the prophet, Master Prophet Bernard E. Jordan out of New York City, Zoe Ministries. False evidence appearing real. When you think about what's false, you think about something that's not true. Evidence meaning something being presented to you. The appearance meaning something you see. Even in your mind, you see it. And we all know real means reality. So if something is being presented to you in certain form, in certain stories, in a certain format, then what that means is that you will believe it. Somebody say, I believe that when pigs fly. If you've seen a pig fly, guess what? You're going to believe it. If you didn't know pigs didn't have wings and you saw something like that, you believe it. But it's false evidence. But what the mind conceives as truth is true to you. So you can be living an entire different life than everyone else based on your reality, meaning the consciousness of your thought. What you're thinking about appears real to only you. That's why many times people can't hear the voice of God because you believe that God is speaking to you. You believe these things like dreams and visions and signs and wonders and things of that nature. Nobody can see that but you. You are having an experience all by yourself. And so getting back to the story time here we're having, fear almost took me out, y'all. Growing up and having to embody something that is new to me, that was introduced to me, not by an outside force, so to speak, not on something outside of my household, but inside of my household. If you're having fear introduced to you by a parent, reality comes crashing down on you very, very quickly. See, I could deal with all the bullies. I could deal with the smokers, as they would say these days. I can deal with the robberies and the homicides. I can deal with all those things. They're outside of my household. I can deal with somebody's going to a funeral. I can deal with these people behaving themselves strangely on some kind of drug that's taking everybody by force, by possession. But when you deal with something from a parent, that hit close to home because guess what, y'all? Mama and daddy is God. Mama is God. Daddy is God. You don't know nothing else when you enter into this world but your parents. Whoever they were that raised you, they were lords over your life and your liberty. And if you have a parent to introduce to you something like fear, it will never leave your life because the entire psychology of your mind changes in one instant forever. Just like the Bible says, you change in an instant, in the blink of an eye, in a twinkling of an eye, you'll be raptured. It's talking about your experience that you believe in your mind, y'all. And fear almost took me out. So I had to grow up becoming someone who could overcome or defeat this thing in my heart called fear. And so turning from a sweet boy, like the song say, by Earth, Wind, and Fire, that's the way of the world. What do you say? A child is born with a heart of gold, way of the world, make his heart so cold. When I heard that, I knew that Maurice White was singing to me. My heart turned cold, y'all. I had to turn into something that could defeat this thing called fear. And guess what? All along the way, everything I had done, every act I had to do, everything of the man of who I would become was standing on something called fear. What was it? It could have been now the fear of anything, the fear of death, the fear of imprisonment, the fear of no being friendless, the fear of being non-sexual, the fear of it. Fear, y'all, it would break you down. Fear is real. It is the evidence of your life being presented to you. And again, if you meet a enemy down the alleyway and he say, "Don't you move, nigga," you're gonna be scared. That's fear. It's your heart telling you something's not right in your reality. And it will cause you to think all types of thoughts that will appear to you even more realer. And so that is a form of control, but we won't get into that tonight. But fear is very real. And so reading here from my notes, because this will be a quick live tonight, y'all. We just want to share and talk to y'all. Growing up fatherless made fear feel permanent in my life. But I discovered that fear was not powerful. Because like I said, once you meet that enemy down the alleyway and he say, "Nigga, don't move," you have to realize something. And that happened to me several times in life. You have to realize something. Your life matters more than anything. I'm going to say it again. Your life matters more than anything. The reason why you work, the reason why you bathe, hopefully you bathe, the reason why you eat, you have to do those things. The reason why you want shelter is to protect your life. Dr. Maslow has a hierarchy of 5 things that every person on earth needs in their life. Google it. The first thing that you need is probably food. After that, shelter. And then security. If you don't have food, shelter, and security, you are lacking 3 of the 5 vital resources in your life. And that means you can't move higher in thinking. And so if you're dealing with something like fear, it's going to stop you from moving past wanting to eat, wanting to live safely in some place, or, have a roof over your head, and being secure, meaning that you want to avoid that dude in the alleyway. If you can't get past that, most communities cannot. And growing up in the city of Atlanta in the 1980s and 90s, you couldn't move past those 3 things. And so fear felt permanent to me. But I had to realize that my life, when I sat down and thought about it, after escaping many situations like that, and then causing some on many, I had to think about something. What was more important to me? My life. Okay, if my life is more important to me than anything else, then I have to protect my life, right? This also means something else. That if I cannot protect my life, then I lose or forfeit my life. And I read in the Bible one day that Jesus said that no man taketh my life from me. I give it over of my own reason. This is what Jesus said, right? And when I read that, that empowered me, y'all. I read that at age 18. And I said, Jesus had power over his life. Nobody killed Jesus. He laid down his life. He said it himself. And I said, if Jesus had that power, and I call Jesus my Lord, then I too have that power. Because he said, greater things ye shall do. And if Jesus said that in the Bible to all the people who believe in him, and I'm a believer in him, I too have that power to lay down my life. And I said, I will not lay down my life for another. And that day I knew fear had no power over me any longer, because I feared not death, because this is my life. I lay it down. No one can take my life from me. And once I stopped fearing death, I stopped fearing fear. Watch this, y'all. That don't mean fear leave your life. That don't mean fear leave you alone. That don't mean you don't get scared sometimes. That don't mean you don't deal with fear every day. You fear losing your job. You fear losing your house. You fear losing your car. But once you stop fearing the fear, it loses its power over you. That's why the Bible says, David said in the Psalms, I will not be afraid of sudden fear. It'll hit you like a flash of lightning. It'll make you freeze up, but breathe through it. Do some deep tantric yoga breaths. Breathe through it. Because if you cut off the oxygen to your head, you are being controlled by that fear. When you fear something, your heart goes so fast, like you're having a heart asthma attack, like you're about to fall out. Breathe through it. And fear loses its power over you. So check this out, y'all. Being fatherless taught me fear, but about how to break through it. Let me be for real with you. You will never overcome fear. That is something that you will deal with in this life. If you have human emotion and a soul, a heart, you can try being stoic. You can try numbing it with all the medication or drugs. Fear is the evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. That means you have to come to a truth of yourself that you possess fear. You have to acknowledge it, like Tony Robbins says, and empower yourself by it to break through and do what you need to do. And I came up with the saying, y'all, when I was a young man, do it scared. And when I started doing it scared, I met some of the most famous people on earth. Some of the richest people you never believe. I accomplished everything that I wanted to do, that I thought I was big and bad enough to do. That means to stop being afraid and do it scared. To realize that fear has no power and authority over you. It's an emotion that can paralyze you if you believe in it, if you let it. If you're the type of person that has been living with fear, you need to know that you've been ruled by it as well. All the decisions that you make in your life is based on fear. I can tell you that about myself as well. Where I work is based on some kind of fear. Where I live, my relationships with people. You fear something, but you must acknowledge it. The reason why is because if you don't acknowledge what that fear is, you'll never break through it. You'll never be able to make decisions that matter most in your life, like moving past food, shelter, and security. And even Jesus said that. Give no thought to what you may eat tomorrow, what you may wear. He's talking about fear, y'all. Once you acknowledge that I'm scared, you feel yourself shaking. You say, I'm scared. But what are you afraid about? It's always the loss of those three things: your food, security, and shelter. You can't even move on to the last two levels, which is love and peace and joy. There's no way to elevate in a land filled with fear. You're capsized. That's why the five, that's why it's a pyramid, y'all, in other words. You can't reach the top of the pyramid if you're stuck at the bottom level. That's why Jesus said, give no thought to it. Don't worry about it. Realize that your life matters most than anything, and it is the loss of something that you fear. So moving forward, fear is loud, but faith is louder. I want to read that again. I'm reading from my notes, y'all. Fear is loud. It's real loud. But faith is louder. See, I had to make a choice. Was I going to let fear be louder in my life than my faith? Because if I called myself a believer, a child of God, a son of God, a man of God, a believer in Christ, saved by whatever, give the whole Christian talk. If I'm going to say that about myself, and that's something I say to myself, because I'm not finna lie to myself, y'all. I lie to you. I lie about everything else. One thing I'm not finna do, I ain't lying to myself. And I'm not a liar, y'all. If I call myself a follower of Christ, and I do, and I say that Christ is in me, I embody the Christ in me, that I am God here in this earth, I embody the Spirit of God, I carry the Spirit of God, there is nothing outside of me that is God. God is in me, through me, and as me, and I say that about myself, then guess what, y'all? I have to then man up and say, my faith must be louder than fear. Let me tell you something. Jesus was afraid. Jesus felt and embodied fear in his human body. The man Jesus, as he cried out in the Garden of Gethsemane and said, Father, pass this cup before me. I cannot take it. That is fear of death. And as he hung on the cross alone, and he cried and wept and said, Father, you have forsaken me. You can make that as holy as you want to, but that's fear. Fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of failure, that he had failed in his mission in life. And I'm going to touch on this right quick for y'all, because I know people watch my videos and somebody going to see this and it'll answer your question. Hell and heaven is here. The thought of hell is the reincarnation of you as a soul into another body. That is the meaning of the resurrection in the Bible, that you will reincarnate here in this place in this time. When Jesus rose from the grave, as they say in the Bible, his soul embodied another body. If you reincarnate here, your fear is that you have to do it all over again. That is the meaning of hell, y'all. And if you want to manifest something after this life with your own mind, that's your fear following you into the next realm. But for those who are children of God, there ain't no hell for you except for your hellish experience here on earth. That's real. That's what the Bible declares. You be careful of the preachers you listen to. They'll preach you right into heaven while you living here on earth in hell. So as we transition towards the end of this thing, right, you have to realize that your faith should be louder than your fear. And I had to realize that my faith had to be louder than my fear. And so I started to live by faith and faith alone. So I want to ask you something as we get ready to close. What's one fear that you've carried on too long? I'm going to share it for y'all, for me. It's the fear of success. I fear how people feel about my presence. Ever since I was the age of 10, I stood 6 feet tall, taller than my teachers and everybody in the school. And like I just told you, my short story, I had to walk as a man without daddy holding my hand. So I don't fear nan nigga, nobody on earth. And yeah, I did use that word, y'all. I want you to hear that. I don't fear you, sir. I don't fear you, madam. There is no fear in me that you can control me with. What I fear is the fear of success, knowing that I have a great and wonderful mind, and the things that I think about myself matter most to me than anything on earth. And the things that I say about myself matter most to me than what you think about me or say about me. And like I said, I'll never lie to myself. But I know in that position is a great, great weight that I have. And if I excel too far, I have to let people go and lose them away. And I fear that success. And so I hold myself back some. What is your fear? You must acknowledge it and embody it to move forward in life. That is your mission and calling. So I want you to respond to that, no matter what platform you see this on, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube. Respond and tell me what your fear is. And if you want to be more than just inspired, you want to be changed, click the link and get the book, God's Secret Storehouse, The Blueprint of Desire. This book has been a revelation to me about how to blow past fear in your life and move towards the abundance of God. And I want to thank you for watching. Again, this is Terrance Wilburn. I am T. Wilburn on all social media platforms. Follow me there. Make sure you get the book. It's available wherever digital books are sold. You can also find yourself a paperback right now, and the audiobook is coming soon. So go to my website. Yeah, I got my own website, y'all. TerranceWilburn.com. Sign up for my email listing, because I send quite a great few emails out of good tips and advice, things that'll really help you. And as I said before, y'all, when you really want your breakthrough, it's more than just a shout. It's more than just a hallelujah. You'll really feel it in your soul. It's not about your tears. You'll feel it. You know that you will no longer fear that fear that has been controlling you all of your life. Once you acknowledge what it is and move past it. And like I said, if you want help with that, get the book, God's Secret Storehouse, The Blueprint of Desire by P.T. Wilburn. That's me. It is a revelation of how you can get the abundance of God in your life. And let me tell you something, y'all, for those watching. Never take the credit for somebody else's success, because that person had to do it themselves. All the kind words and prayer matter a lot, but they don't matter a damn thing until that person do it for themselves. Get yourself some success today. Get the Blueprint of Desire, God's Secret Storehouse by P.T. Wilburn. I love y'all. This has been, bye-bye.